Gibson with the Philosophical Weightlifting podcast. This is episode 16, and I'm joined today by Zack Telander. Zack, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm assuming not too many people know who you are because your YouTube channel is just starting to kind of starting to come up. So if you could just introduce yourself, your background, any relevant information, that'd be really useful.
Yeah, so I like to talk about my background kind of in stages. I grew up in a small town outside of Chicago called Lake Forest, in Illinois. I played every sport under the sun. This is kind of like my history as far as training goes. I played every sport under the sun, and my dad played football in college. He played football in the pros. All three of my older sisters swam, and two of them swam in college. So I have a pretty athletic background. I ended up getting a scholarship to the University of Vermont to play lacrosse. And that was a blast. And that's kind of where my actual mindset around training went. When I was in high school, I tore my meniscus during my senior year of football training, and it was a non-contact injury. And so they decided they wanted to repair the meniscus instead of take out the problem area. That's so I could have like a longer lasting knee, basically. And so I had 6 months of recovery from that, and I missed my senior year of football. And that was going to be a big year for me. My quarterback ended up being a quarterback for Notre Dame, the starting quarterback for Notre Dame. I mean, we were a passing football team. I was the number one wide receiver. I was most likely going to go to a Division I football school, but I've been doing really well in lacrosse, so I accepted a scholarship to the University of Vermont. Went to the University of Vermont, working out like crazy, and that's where I really got my first dose of sports performance style workouts. And then once I graduated, I felt like either my fitness or I felt like I wasn't done. And there's something about where I just wanted to reach like my physical maximum potential. And I think that's kind of intrinsic in a lot of us. But so after that, I joined a CrossFit gym, and it was, it's a pretty interesting. There was two CrossFit gyms. One of them didn't have a website, and that was closer to my house, and the other one did have a website. So I just went to the one with the website. And this gym ended up changing my life, the one that I ended up choosing on that one day. So I started doing CrossFit. I fell in love with it. After college, I worked in like this advertising. I was like an intern for somebody who helped produce, advertisements for different advertising agencies. Anyways, I didn't like it. And so I wanted to become a CrossFit coach. And while I was doing that, so I got my level 1. And this whole time I was Olympic weightlifting on top of CrossFit, which I feel like a lot of people, that's kind of how they got their start. But I was doing what was called outlaw. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But I wanted to like dive into it even further. I ended up getting a full-time coaching job downtown in the city of Chicago, which was an amazing opportunity. That's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot of bad talk about CrossFit, but it got me to where I am today. And I've that $1,000 fee that I paid for the level 1 ended up paying back, by so much more. But anyways, from there, I was full-time coaching, which was pretty awesome. Again, I was at that time full-time coaching. I switched over to full-time weightlifting, so my obsession with weightlifting had started. And then I opened up a barbell club at this at the gym that I was at called Foundry Barbell. And that was really awesome. We had a barbell specific class. I ended up competing under my own barbell. I felt pretty accomplished. And then obviously this came after. You can't open up a barbell club unless you have a level 1. So I got my level 1 weightlifting. But then after that, I felt like I didn't want to be in the private sector. I didn't feel, and this was the wrong sentiment completely looking back on it, but I didn't feel like the private sector was fulfilling enough, because people weren't dependent on me like I was working for them. So, if I taught someone how to snatch in a CrossFit class, I would work with them very hard, and all I want them to do is have correct technique. They would leave, come back the next day, and they would have completely forgot, or they would come back, 2, 3, 4 days later and be like, how do I snatch? What snatch? Is the snatch with the narrow grip or the wide grip? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that started to become a little bit unfulfilling, and I thought maybe I should go back into the sports performance world where I got into this in the first place, doing lacrosse. So I got an internship at the Northwestern University where my dad played football, and that was free, unpaid internship. So that's how they do internships in collegiate strength training, strength conditioning. So I was there for 8 months, unpaid. I was living at my girlfriend's place, pretty much rent free. I'm going to say rent free because I didn't have any money. And I just went there every day and learned new things, and ended up getting my CSCS, which is another certification, NSCA, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. So after that, I was applying to places like mad. You can't be a volunteer coach your entire life. And Texas A&M reached out to me. I reached out to them. I had an interview with Texas A&M. And then I ended up getting their sort of a position called like an apprenticeship or a program aide. So it was paid. So it was a big step up, and it was at a big Olympic program. And that's kind of where I learned my program philosophy. That's where I took all my knowledge of strength and conditioning from Northwestern and took it to the next level. Mm-hmm. Because as an apprentice, we were required to take master's level classes, and we were required to work with what were called the master's students, the practicum kids. And so that's how I learned how to program. I learned from a master strength coach. That term is coined by the CSCCA. That group at all? Have you heard of that? CSCCA. No, I haven't. So that's I think it's collegiate certified strength. I can't remember the actual name, but it's actually like a players association, but for collegiate strength coaches.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they felt that they didn't have enough representation in the professional world, like say a sports coach would.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say there's a lot to unpack there. So I'm really curious as to what your training looked like, maybe as you went from high
I went
school.
Off on a rant there.
No, that's great. People honestly don't want to hear me talk. They want to hear the guest.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
feel free. But as far as your training from high school to college, then introduction to CrossFit, and then weightlifting, and then you started understanding the nuances of programming. Could you just break that down? Give us an idea of the evolution.
Yeah, so I think CrossFit was the volume portion of my life. Weightlifting was the heavy singles portion of my life. And then programming was taking a step back and rethinking about the whole situation. And so I don't know if that answers your questions. That kind of
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as far as what you were actually doing in the weight room.
Oh, yeah. So I was, obviously when I was CrossFitting, I was just doing whatever the WOD was.
Right.
And or I was doing outlaw programming, but I wouldn't suggest outlaw's program looking back on it. Again, these are decisions that I'm being very honest with you about like CrossFit and all these things. Looking back on it, I wasn't the smartest guy back then. I didn't, I'm a lot better now, or a lot more knowledgeable now. Um, but then when I was full-time coaching, working the barbell classes and had my own barbell club, I was following Catalyst
Okay,
Athletics,
yeah.
which is at that time was free programming. I think you have to pay something now. I'm not sure, but that's where, and then I literally was doing heavy squats every day I walked into the gym, because my build, I mean, I've got the longest femurs in the world, and I'm 6'4" with a 6'7" wingspan. So every single weightlifting coach I've ever come in contact with said, "Hey, squat every day, kid,
Yeah.
if you want to get better at this." So I pretty much literally, like, it's a crazy program, and I think they still have it on Catalyst. If not, you should check it out. But you either front squat at the beginning to maximum of your session, and then back squat at the end of the session, or vice versa every single day you walk into the gym. And it worked. My total went up like 25 kilos. So that's kind of how my training was going then. After that, I just like kind of have been flip flopping back and forth. I stopped competing after a certain point and really focused on like my craft, which was just getting better at understanding training and understanding physiologies, morphologies, all these different concepts that I was completely oblivious to.
Mm-hmm.
And so my training kind of fell by the wayside. And now the past 8 weeks, no, even more than that, I'd say 12 weeks, though, the past 3 months, I've been on this like huge renaissance of my own programming. And I feel like it's just next level for me.
Okay. And you made a video about the problem or the pitfalls of CrossFit, and you kind of got into that a little bit a few minutes ago. If you can kind of discuss your experiences with CrossFit programming, where they come up short, and maybe what they actually do well.
So just to be clear, that my issue with CrossFit comes from CrossFit HQs, or from CrossFit HQ. So CrossFit headquarters, for people that don't understand what that means. And to go even further with that, CrossFit is a company that when you decide to be affiliated with them, you're really paying for that marketing, right? Like if I sell high intensity training by Zack and I open up a gym, it probably won't do as well unless it's called Zack's CrossFit Gym. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, bravo to them, right? But because of their success and because of previous animosity, like previous pushback from groups like the NSCA, CrossFit has taken this ultra defensive sort of "we don't need you" stance, and I hate it. And I hate how absolute it is. The whole point of my show, if you can't, or my YouTube, is to speak on the fact that there are zero absolutes. To say that there's an absolute best would mean that like nothing is absolute best. So whenever you sell something and you're trying to sell it to a large group, people, I guess this is what people want to hear. They want to hear absolutes. They want to know how to squat today, and they want to know how to, they want a general way for everyone to squat the same way. We're going to have these rules, and I don't care if it's different for you or you, everyone's going to learn this way. And that approach to me is very problematic. I don't understand it at all. And I talk about, Kelly Starrett's approach to that as well. And how he kind of uses certain absolutes when he coaches training or teaches them. But my issue with CrossFit specifically was with the programming. It's called programming pitfall. Because so CrossFit's argument is that we are creating the healthiest people. And they actually put this on the board. They say, here's health and here's sickness. And we're creating this buffer between health and sickness with fitness. So ultimately, wouldn't the fittest people be the healthiest people by that definition? Right? And so what creates the fittest people? Is it your methodology? Well, no, because the best people in CrossFit aren't even doing your methodology. But outside of that, that's just, that's completely an arbitrary thing. For what I actually care about was that they had this methodology that was so, like so gung ho and so new and so different. And the level one, so the level one is important because if you get the level one, you can open up an affiliate, right? You could open up a CrossFit gym, start programming tomorrow, and get people to work under you. And since this is this crazy new thing, and I'm looking at this video from, I don't know, 2008, 2009 or something on YouTube, that CrossFit still holds on high, man. I'm telling you, they're like, this is old school CrossFit. They're very nostalgic about 2008, like the good old days, you know what I mean? Which I think is also problematic, being nostalgic for training, right? Because we need to change, you need to evolve depending on, you now have however many affiliates have been going for so long. We have a sample size you can adapt now, right? So my thing is, within this little video in the YouTube clip that I was watching, that made me want to create my video, was Dave Castro going up to a whiteboard and throwing together this like slapstick presentation. And it was supposed to be like, wow, man, that's how you do programming. For this massive corporation, this massive company with so many people that are going to work underneath it. And it's not like, okay, yeah, they made it in 2009. They're not going to say that it's different now. They're like, it's exactly the same. It's the same old CrossFit. And that's what bothers me, is like, no, it's not. Like, Dave Castro going up to a whiteboard and talking for 45 minutes about, and I'll give you exactly what he said. He said, you need to live your life in couplets and triplets, where the couplets are a barbell movement paired with a gymnastics movement, or a single modality movement, which would be like your cardio, running, rowing, whatever, paired with a barbell movement or a gymnastics movement. Or you can do a triplet, which is all three. Or you can just pick randomly, whatever you want. Whatever you want to do, you can pick, as long as it's in a couplet, triplet. Oh, but you can also do these things called chippers, and you can also go long if you'd like, right? Or you can do a single modality day, because strength is very important. Guys, please, this is, again, out of Dave Castro's mouth. Strength is very important. So what we're going to do is a single modality day, say like 7 singles of deadlift. Well, I'm sorry, what? 7 singles of deadlift? Then what? What do you even mean? We're just going to max out a deadlift after we've been doing couplets and triplets? And then where do we go from there? Like, are we going to max out deadlifts again? Or is it just going to be like, hey, guys, we're deadlifting today? That's my whole thing. Like, I have this book right here, Periodization Training for Sports. And if you guys, obviously the people listening can't hear, but I'm holding it up right now showing Josh. Periodization it's not an optional thing. It's an absolute necessity. And to argue that we don't need it is ridiculous. And it needed to be said. Again, this is coming from someone who started in CrossFit, who loves CrossFit. And of all of the CrossFit gyms I've been to, there's nothing, it's never even been close to what Dave Castro said on that whiteboard. They've always had programmed strength cycles that they do conditioning on top of.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So like CrossFit, they're stubborn and they don't adapt. And right. I think that's basically my biggest issue.
So I can tell that you're obviously passionate about it.
Got brew here,
cold brew. No.
Want to open it? Ready?
Yeah. Ooh.
There we go. So opening my cold brew coffee for you guys.
So I can tell that you're obviously passionate about spreading quality information and kind of bringing an awareness that there needs to be a phasic structuring of training, that it needs to make sense. You need to prioritize certain adaptation. And you kind of talked about it before, but what's your driver for your YouTube channel, and where do you see yourself going forward with the content that you put out?
The main driver for my YouTube channel has just always been like my thesis, or my theses, if you will. I Ever since I started CrossFit, I was not like a passive CrossFitter. I was not a passive weightlifter. I always had issues or problems or cues that I thought were better than what I was seeing or better than what I was receiving. And so that's kind of my driver going forward. Every time, I mean, I literally every week or every day, I find something new that I want to share with people. And as long as that keeps happening, I want to keep doing that. It's like, to answer your question, more simply, it's like, I don't really have an end goal for my YouTube channel. I don't really have anything going forward, but what I can say is the material that I get is endless. It's endless.
Right.
Like what you were saying before, the fact that we need periodization to say, like, another thing CrossFit says is routine is the enemy. And I find that kind of goes against what's biologically human. Mm-hmm. Our brain creates patterns so that we can survive. That's factual. Periodization is simply just looking at training in a systematic way. And again, if I was to say systematic to a CrossFitter or to a purist CrossFitter, they would be like, up right there. You're wrong, right? Systems are not good. It's the unknown and the unknowable. But like, how unknowable can it get when you have 3 different types of movements, right? Like, I know what's going to happen to me in the CrossFit Open. Oh, wow, you put in dumbbells last year. Like, that's not anything crazy. Mm-hmm. But as long as, again, back to my YouTube channel, as long as there's stuff that I can share with people, that's what I'm going to do going forward.
Okay. And so taking a lot of that information that you've been putting out, let's create a fictional weightlifter that is a complete beginner.
Yeah.
So if we were to teach them, cool. So if we were to teach them a few things: basic technique, basic programming, and then basic movement. I'd like to take you through each one and see what that would look like. So as far as technique goes, I'd like to hear how you teach technique, and maybe who your main influences are, and how you would take a beginner through that process.
So my biggest influence by far is Alexei Tarakty. Other than that, I think visually, Adam Malagov and Opti Alkudov in the snatch. Actually, this is going to sound crazy, but like Matty Rogers has fantastic technique.
Yeah.
You don't snatch those numbers in any weight. I mean, it doesn't matter if she's American, Russian, whatever. You don't snatch those numbers unless you're technically sound. Mm-hmm. But if I was going to take you through the snatch, is that you kind of want me to like describe how to begin? Yeah. So first off, I think that both of the lifts, there's 2 aspects. You have to be able to extend and flex fast. And that's something that's not taught by the USAW. And that's kind of a big overarching concept in my YouTube video. So for anyone who wants to learn weightlifting, you need to be able to extend the hips, but then also flex them again immediately and land into that dynamic squat. And what I mean by that is your hips are going down and your feet are catching your body weight, and you're going down fast. That is going to help you out more than I think USAW portrays. It's kind of an afterthought, really, in the way that most people teach. They teach, okay, here's the bar at your shins, here's the bar at your knee, here's the bar at the contact point or the power position. And then everything else is just kind of like, wait, well, what about now? And so what Alexei did, and I had been doing this with my CrossFitters and my weightlifters back in my gym before I took Alexei's seminar, and I'd been doing it with myself. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to hit the bar off my hips. I'm going to hit the bar off my thighs, and I'm going to keep cleaning more weight and keep snatching more weight. And I'm going to teach the people that I'm teaching how to do it like that, but it's not going to be the way that USAW. Then I went to see Alexei's seminar, and it was like, holy shit. The first thing he taught was like, here's how you contact the bar on your thigh in the clean. Here's how you contact the bar on your hips in the snatch. I mean, why? Again, I go back to USAW. I love USAW. So if anyone hears this, like, please, I just took my my recertification yesterday. But so why is it that they're so bashful to talk about contact? Because they feel like, okay, it's going to swing the bar forward, all this stuff. But my thing is, I want to be able to teach contact, teach dropping underneath the bar right away. Mm-hmm. And then we can kind of work on bar path from there. So Alexei teaches, there's a couple drills. He hits the bar hard off the thigh and then pulls it straight up in the air. I don't know. I just call that a contact drill. But then he also, and then I would add to that just drop squats. So basically, it's kind of like a tall snatch or a tall clean or tall jerk series, but just with the squat, just with the air squat. So like getting your feet out wide and landing hard into that dynamic squat. So those are two drills, that contact drill, the drop squat, and then also the tall snatch or the tall no-footed snatch. Okay, so and same can be done with the cleans. So the tall series. Keeping the hips extended, pulling with the arms, and dropping underneath without using the hips at all. So again, that's another concept that where the USAW or any other organization would be like, we don't want to teach people to bend at the arms. But once you're fully extended, once your hips are fully extended, your legs, your hips, everything is done driving the bar. The bar cannot physically be driven any higher. So now it's all about you being able to pull the bar to the right spot. And that's something ultimately why I created my first YouTube video ever. If you look back, it's like 3 ways to fix the snatch or something like that. That was the driver behind it, was like, we are taught extension. We are taught this triple extension. But then after that, everything's kind of an afterthought. And actually in Russian, there is no real, in Soviet literature, there is no real concept of extension. It's more, it's drive. And then, the close, fast, low of the Chinese, that was actually taken from Soviet teaching. So keeping the bar close, being fast, which means fast underneath, and low, which means getting underneath the bar. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's an interesting concept, right? You have two conflicting things. You have one group saying we need to focus on extension, and then we have one group who doesn't even really acknowledge extension. And that was kind of manifested in the way that Alexei teaches the snatch and the clean and jerk. So circling back to what you were saying, if someone wanted to learn the snatch or the clean and jerk, seriously, focus on contact. So with the clean, it's going to be the high thighs. With the snatch, it's going to be the hips. From there, focus on dropping very fast. And not just dropping with loose arms, but dropping with arms that are pulling the bar where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So what I like to cue, even though this doesn't really happen, that how you have that dynamic squat like I was talking about before, where your feet go out and you kind of slap the floor and you get into when your feet hit the floor, the bar should be where it needs to be. And you see this in a lot of Soviet lifters, Chinese lifters, the best lifters. When their feet land hard, the bar is where it needs to be. And that's why, Adam Malagov is a perfect visual representation of that. So those are 3 things I think definitely beginners should start doing.
Okay, that's excellent. So a question I usually like to ask, and I actually skipped over, I completely forgot. But as far as training goes, what is the most difficult aspect of training for yourself and then for people that you coach?
I'd say the most difficult aspect is not, and this is an interesting term, not being a donkey. And I actually took this term from the Tim Ferriss podcast, which I don't know if you're aware of, but he has, Derek Sivers was his name. He's he's a very rich, successful businessman, entrepreneur, and he said, "Don't be a donkey." And it's basically, don't lose attention so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bury yourself in your program. Go 12 weeks, go 20 weeks straight of just doing your program. Oh, you feel good today? Too bad. You're just going to do your doubles, your sets, you know what I mean? Your 5 sets of snatch doubles. I don't care how good you feel. Don't go for that PR. Don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I still battle with that daily, man. For real. Like, if my program is like, hey, we're doing, pause snatch doubles to 110, and that feels really good, so I'm going to try to PR my pause snatch. I'm already going off of the training. I'm already being a donkey. So that's something that I would definitely suggest. So, like, just get buried in a program. That's it. I mean, that's something I think is the hardest, and I think that if a beginner can do that, oh my God, and you can just get so consistent with the lifts.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers.
No, that's a great answer. Then, like, as far as people that you coach, have you noticed a similar difficulty for them, or is it usually something else?
No, they buy in right away, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can say that, like, with my new online clientele, which has been awesome, they buy in right away, and they're so stoked to start. And what I try to do with them right away is something that they've never done before, which is volume. And it's volume at a low intensity where you're trying to keep the bar path perfect, and you're trying to keep all these movements perfect, but you're just getting tired.
Right.
And that's something that, like, the Soviets, like Zygmunt Smalsers, when he was coaching people at the Olympic Training Center. People are just so eager to get to heavy singles. And Zygmunt was like, you can take 1,000,000 attempts you can literally snatch 75% like 300 times today. I don't care. You know what I mean? As long as the technique is perfect, and you'll get better when you do something like that. And I think that's completely overlooked. And so what I do with my programming right away is, like, we'll do 5s of snatches off the blocks. So we'll make you pull from the floor 5 times, but I'll make you get it off the hip, land, get it off the hip, land, get it off the hip, land. Like, I'm going to have you do that 5 times. Obviously, the intensity is going to match up with the weight, right? So you're not going to do 90% for 5 reps. So that's kind of my concept there. Like, your question, I think I might have missed it a little bit, but with my athletes, they buy in. I don't have to worry about that too much. But what I try to do is something different and think really long term with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get them on a cycle of, percentage singles or percentage doubles even. I'm going to start at 5s.
Right.
And I'm going to, you know what I mean? Not in the full movements. I'm going to partition these things. But I'm going to get them to work longer and work more. And then we're going to narrow it down, because 12 weeks from now, you're doing 5s now, but you got to think 12 weeks from now, you're going to start heavy singles. And those things are going to feel great.
Right.
Right? That's huge, man. I'm telling you. Like, the best in the world don't even consider maximal weights until they absolutely need to. And when they do, they smoke them.
Right.
They absolutely smoke them. I was just in Worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of to answer your question.
Awesome.
Right there.
So I think this leads us to programming. So if we were to have that same beginner that you just gave those technical tips to, and they wanted to start writing a program, what are your foundations, and how would you teach them to write a program?
Easy. So find a rep max chart. Okay. So off the top of my head, the rep max chart goes like this. It's like, your 1 rep max, that's 100%. Your 2 rep max is 95%. Your 3 rep max is 92.5%, 90%, for 4 rep, 87.5, 85%. It just, the first one goes, whatever. Find that chart. It's called a rep max chart. And basically it projects what your certain rep maxes are for the movement. And it mainly works with the back squat and the front squat, but I like to use it in the snatch as well. Snatch and clean and jerk and well, and I've found that it's pretty accurate. Right? So that would mean that 100% is your snatch PR, right? 95% should be your snatch PR double, right? So if I wanted to program a cycle of doubles, so all we're going to do is doubles. We're not going to do singles at all. If I wanted to program doubles, all I would do is start doing percentages off of my doubles percent or my projected 2 rep max. So I would take percentages of 95%. That's called relative intensity. Right there, that concept is everything. It's everything. Because now we're talking about what a weight feels like, not what it is to your 1 rep max. Why do I give a shit about my 1 rep max if I'm doing doubles? Why do I give a shit about my 1 rep max if I'm doing sets of 10 on back squats? I should care about my 10 rep max and how relative it is to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's honestly the biggest concept ever. Now, after that, you should look into different sources of how much load to do. So per week load, like tonnage, but then also per session. So Prilipin's chart is going to be your biggest guideline for per session load. And I found that that's pretty money. It's pretty spot on. So how many reps do I program at 85% relative or 85% actual? So the difference between relative percentage and actual percentage is when anyone says actual or whatever, they're usually talking about the 1 rep max. Right? So when I say relative, it's always relative to the rep max that is of the sets you're doing. So find relative intensity, find where you can fit it into Prilipin's chart, and from there progress. And that this concept I explain like directly in my YouTube video. So definitely check that out if you get the chance.
Yeah, I'll link all of those videos in the show notes. So what are some common programming errors that you've noticed, if you've noticed any?
Yeah, I think like the being a donkey thing, right? Like not sticking to something or not having like a bigger picture towards something. So say you have a competition in 12 weeks, or not even 12 weeks, 8 weeks. Yeah, like peak that person for that 8 weeks, but also peak that person to go 6 for 6. And then so that they can go get better next competition. Right? Don't just say, hey, we're going to peak you for this competition in 8 weeks and we're going to have you go for 100%. Hopefully you go, 2 for 6 and you PR, or 3 for 6, 4 for 6 and you PR. Like, no, we're going to have you go 6 for 6 through this competition and you're going to keep going on to the next training. Right? So, that's the biggest programming pitfall, right? Like, okay, we're done with this 4-week cycle. Let's change everything up. No, like keep it simple, and you don't have to add in crazy complexes. You don't have to add in all these crazy things. Think long term. Think 12 weeks. Okay, you're thinking 12 weeks. Think 20 weeks. Think year long. You know what I mean? And that's definitely, to answer your question, the biggest issue with programming is that it's not really annual or even cyclical. It becomes this like, I'm bored with doubles. Right. I want to do certain things. You know what I mean? However, I found that if the stimulus is similar, just change it up. You can change exercises.
Right.
So I think a common stimulus is clean front squat jerk. That's going to be close to like front squat or 3 front squats and a jerk. Right? That's going to be in the same relative feeling. So I'm going to program those the same way. So if 2 weeks you're doing clean front squat jerk, I would add in some, the next 2 weeks, I would add in clean somewhere else, but I would make you do front squat triple, then a jerk. And I would get the same feeling, but I would get the clean somewhere else. But that's just intricacies of programming. But, my biggest thing is like go long, man.
Right.
If you've got time, just go long. Like don't even, it's such a hard concept to understand.
So if you were if you had someone that had a difficulty buying into that long-term approach, what sort of changes would you make to their program to make it more, to make it so they were able to adhere to it a bit better? Have you found any like tricks to that or tips, to help with adherence?
I think you got to get them in the mindset that missing is bad and technique is good. Numbers are like the coolest thing, in sports performance that I noticed was we would go heavy, but if someone looked bad, people would stop kind of cheering.
Yeah.
Which is I always find baffling when someone power cleans and their legs go out to the sides and they look like a starfish and the whole team is cheering. I would be the one kid that would be standing there in embarrassment. You know what I mean? You should be more pumped about the way something looks, technically speaking, than the numbers that you put up.
Right.
But like combating someone who's being a donkey, basically, and just wants to PR here and PR there, you have to change the culture around the barbell with them. And that's what Zygmunt tried to do to a lot of people at the Olympic Training Center. And it worked. Morgan King, who's, she was an Olympian. She bought into Zygmunt's whole thing, right? And I think volume helps that a lot. Because, like, if I tell someone who's snatching 140 kilos and they don't have the best technique, if I tell them to snatch 110 or 100, over and over again until your technique is really good, they're not going to want to buy into that. So I'm going to have to find a way for them to buy into it. I'm going to have to trick them a little bit, but they're also going to have to, meet me halfway. So I would do like an every minute on the minute or something to tire them out and be like, wow, this program is hard.
Right.
It's a little bit gimmicky, but at the same time, they're getting their technique working. I think that's definitely a good way.
Yeah. Right? I think that's huge that you said that. Like, typically people want to feel beat up after a workout.
Right.
And like sometimes 75%, it's hard to get that feeling. But if you start stringing lifts together, like clean front squat jerk, and you have 5 sets, you feel pretty beat up regardless of the percentage.
I don't personally run into this problem.
Yeah.
Thank God. And I'm not so sure I want to coach someone who is like that, but if they're super talented, it's almost worth it. So right. Yeah, like I definitely think that's probably the best solution is just like making whatever it is hard some way. Like yeah. The coolest sessions, now I'm thinking about it. The coolest sessions that I had personally when I was weightlifting was like, I don't care what weight I lift today as long as it looks good.
Yeah.
And I would end up getting to like 95 to 100% max. You know what I mean? Because my mind was not in like, I have to hit this number. It was just like, look good and be good. And it was like the coolest, like, God, I got to go back to that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's something I would do with them. Be like, hey, like today, you want to impress me? Make it look good. Make 90 kilos look good. Oh, you're a 140 kilo snatcher? Make 90 kilos look amazing before you can even touch 100 kilos. I want it to look perfect. And that's kind of seriously what like Zygmunt and other, and Soviet style coaches, that's what they did with little kids, at least. So to answer your question more bluntly, just treat them like little kids.
Right. Yeah, I have a similar kind of mindset where it's like your warm-ups, you need to earn the right to go heavy. And the way you earn the right is by making it look flawless. And if there's a problem, you take it again. Because there's no reason to start going up when it looks like complete trash.
Exactly. Right? And I think I think people just go up anyways. That's the
Yeah,
biggest issue.
and
So,
you talked about it before, but I think that influx from CrossFit, they have this whole idea of like every workout needs to just absolutely destroy me. So if
well, you
I'm
want to know why? CrossFit's only an hour long.
right, right,
This is like, do you want to get stronger or do you want this like weird, lingering general fitness?
right,
Like, can you tell me the last time that you were able to warm up successfully and squat like 5 by 5 at like 95% relative, like some horrible, horrible squat workout in less than 50 minutes?
no,
Can you tell me the last time? No, but in CrossFit, it's like, hey guys, yeah, like even every CrossFit gym, they're like, hey guys, we're gonna do 5 by 3 at 90 at like 92% actual, which is damn near 97% relative, right? We're gonna do that, and we're gonna do it in a half hour because you guys got a WOD coming up after it,
right,
right? So like that's where people come from in CrossFit. Like they're just not patient.
right,
You just have to be patient. I mean, like look at the big picture here. Well, what are you doing? This is another video that I really want to make um, going forward. If you're not competing, do something different and do it for a long time. Like, um, and this can kind of segue into another part. Like, I see a lot of people learn the snatch and the clean and jerk, and they have successful bar path, they have good connection, they have good timing, but they're very weak, right? They fall into the hole, their knees collapse, they look like baby giraffes, and they just boom, and the bar kind of pins them down. So a massive part of being successful in weightlifting, and I could see it. I was standing on the side of the stage at the World Weightlifting Championships. I could see the best weightlifters were the ones who had the best isometric strength, right? That's what weightlifting is. It's a game. How much isometric strength can you hold through your core or through your back while these crazy loads are being pushed through your arms and through your feet? But also the ones who could slow down the barbell on reception. The ones who you could see their quads and legs firing up against the barbell. They were like, it's like shocks on a car. If you give a bed spring, if you put bed springs as your shocks for your car, it's going to be a bumpy ride. But if you keep those shocks on your car, those coils are so damn strong, right? They don't bend easy. And I think that if you're not competing, take a step back, maybe move the bar down your back a little bit, get your deadlift up, get your back squat up, maybe don't slam into the hole. This is the title of this video would be what weightlifters can learn from powerlifters.
mm-hmm.
Because the gym that I go to has one of the best powerlifters in the country, if not the world. And he basically, all he talks about is powerlifting is control. It's just control. That's all it is. Every inch of the barbell, every millimeter of the barbell moves, you have to control it. And it's all about that eccentric and isometric strength. Everything's on a tempo with these guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough of that in weightlifting. So step back, find the bigger picture. If you're not competing in specifically weightlifting and you have time, go somewhere else and come back. And then when you come back, look at the bigger picture, like we were saying. Look at the bigger picture, like, oh, you came back to weightlifting after this powerlifting cycle. So what if you can't snatch maximum and you can't clean and jerk maximum? How good does 70 kilos look?
Yeah.
How good does 100 kilos on your clean and jerk look? Because if it looks good, then you're winning, man. I'm telling you. We can get more load once your technique is good, right? Like I think people need to understand that. We were just talking, the CrossFit mindset is like, if I'm not snatching what I used to snatch, what's the point?
Right.
And you have to know that you will snatch more. You have to know that it will happen.
Yeah, and I think
that's go on. Go
yeah,
ahead.
this is an easy thing to kind of diagnose. I mean, if you ever catch a front squat and you have a difficult time standing up, like you need to just get your absolute strength up.
Yeah.
Except for
And,
leverages.
but
Like leverages make it a little different, but you need to
no,
be able to stand up with everything relatively easily.
and that doesn't mean that we're gonna front squat like weightlifters. Put a tempo in it, put a pause
Right.
in it.
Right.
This isn't a clean anymore. But we're unracking the bar. It's no longer an Olympic movement. It's no longer specific. That's a crazy concept that people don't understand. They're like, well, why would I do something if it's not specific to weightlifting? What are you talking about? What are we even talking? We're talking about training here. Everything is not specific to weightlifting if it's not the snatch or the fucking clean and jerk. Sorry, excuse my language. You unrack the bar from a rack. You're already not specific. So just go all the way with it. So this is, wow, I kind of just thought about this, but this is a big issue with CrossFit, right? Their whole thing is, if we're not going to periodize, or we're going to come back to your snatch, but we're not going to really train it. We're going to come back to your clean and jerk, but we're not really going to train it. And while that concept may work with the squat and with the squat and possibly the deadlift, maybe the bench press, I'm not sure, but to come back to the snatch once a week, twice a week, people's expectations of it are so much higher. Right? And I think that's something that we both can say, like, if you want to snatch well and you want to clean and jerk well, you need to do it every day. Every day you step into the gym, you need to do a level of the sport that you want to do. Right? It's that simple. It's like a language. You can't just get better at speaking Spanish by coming into your local, tutoring class at the rec center taught by some random dude. I don't know. I just thought of something like that. But you can't just go into that class once a week and expect to get better. I mean, you can get better, but you're not going to get that good.
Yeah, and I think going along with the psychology of it, if you only snatch once a week and it's a really bad workout, that's going to stay with you the entire week. If you go in every day and you have one bad day and the next day is great,
and you're going to hate the snatch.
You're going to hate it. Exactly. So the key to it is doing it frequently, doing it well, and then the bad days just kind of get washed out over time.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the thesis for this podcast right now is like, look at the way bigger picture. Like, again, make that barbell your bitch today. Okay. If you hate snatching, I want to see how well you do with the barbell. Just the barbell. Because everyone's like, oh, I hate snatching. Oh, it's such a bad movement. But if I put the barbell in your hand and I teach you how to move that correctly and fast, I promise you it will be fun.
Yeah.
You're not going to get killed by this 45-pound thing, right? Or 35-pound if you're a woman, okay? You're not going to get killed by it. We're going to move it perfectly fine. And then from there, we're going to put on those little 10s and we'll see where you are from there. Oh, you didn't move it that well? Great. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's get better at it tomorrow. There's no need to be like, I can't do it. I can't go up to 50, 60, 70 kilos. Screw this. No, just, we'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so simple.
CrossFit's like, well, we might not do it until Wednesday. So you better get your snatch work in today because it's Wednesday of this week. We're not going to do it till Wednesday of next week. Like, so it's that simple. If you want to get good at these things, it's not about like actually excelling at them comparatively to other people. It's just putting in like more and more work every day.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because no one hates the movement. They hate being bad at it.
Yes.
Just like you said, that they hate being bad at something.
Let me tell you something. You suck at the snatch and you always will suck at the snatch. I suck at the snatch and I will always suck at the snatch. Right? But who cares? Like, I'm not snatching so that I can be like a internationally competitive weightlifter or even nationally competitive. That ship has sailed. I mean, who knows nationally wise? But like, why does that even matter? I'm not snatching because I'm like, you know what? I want to be Lasha. I'm just not doing that. It's the same thing. If you pick up anything, you don't just say, well, comparatively, I'm not that good.
Yeah.
Then you'll never do anything in your life. Like, that is basically, again, I started to put this at the end of my videos. It's like, no excuses, just improve, right? Because improvement is everything.
Yeah.
Improvement, improvement, improvement. It has nothing to do with being good or bad, because everyone sucks, right? Michael Jordan walked into the gym and he's like, God damn it, if I don't work hard today, Karl Malone or even Scotty on his own team is gonna be better than me.
Right.
Like, no one is good enough. No one, not even Lasha. Because guess what? If Lasha slips up, Bedad Salimi is right there. This is my concept. This is my thesis over everything. And I've learned this just going through some shit and some hard times, is if you have the ability to get better incrementally, and that's the beauty of periodization, that is everything, you will be very good. You will be very good. But if you want the shortcut, if you want the little, if you want the CrossFit style of weightlifting, you're going to get buried, and you're going to get buried hard. It's that simple. And the objectivity of being like, hey, it doesn't work for this person or it works for this person is absolutely a necessity. The humility of being like, man, I suck at this, I need to get better today, is absolutely a necessity. But thinking of things in absolutes and quick fixes, you're fucked. You're super fucked.
Right. So I know this podcast kind of been all over the place. We started with a fictional weightlifter. We talked about programming technique. Now, as far as movement goes, what sort of standards do you have for everyone, and then what varies from lifter to lifter?
So depth in the squat is an absolute necessity, but not just depth in the squat, but like controllable depth. So like that ability to slow yourself down and the barbell down eccentrically, like we talked about before. But also, being able to push your belly through the knees in the squat. And that requires that thoracic extension at the top, which for people listening, it's kind of like thinking about your shoulders back, chest up, but also getting your hips below your knees, feet flat. These are all postures that are, you can't argue. You just can't debate with me. You can't debate with anyone. And I guess I'm being an absolutist in those, but like, these are not concepts that are like, hey, you need to squat at this width. You need to squat with your toes forward. That's an absolute. That's bullshit, right? But an absolute saying like, your hips should be getting below the knees. And I always think belly through the knees. And the reason for that is like, it helps keep your lumbar curve in check. And then also open up the chest, because the thoracic extension is a must. So those are definitely my check marks. I don't know if you want me to go further into what those things mean, I guess.
No, that's awesome. Now, so those are a few things we'd be looking for, and you touched on it. So like you said, stance width, toe angle, you said those would vary. What about like grip width on the bar for a snatch, or like grip width for a jerk?
Definitely play with it. Definitely play with it. I can say that what you think today about jerk grip or width may not be what you think tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So I just PR'd my jerk at 165, which is big for me. That's big weight. And like that, I never thought in a million years that I'd be able to put something like that overhead. But what I realized was that maybe I need to slide my jerk grip out a little bit. I brought it in because I feel super stable in that narrow grip, but my arms are so long, like 6'7" wingspan, and I'm not even shitting you. It might even be longer. We measured it. It's crazy, right? All I did was I bumped my jerk grip out about an inch or two on each side. So basically I'm touching the little mark on the barbell, and it changed my world. So now when I stand up a maximal clean, I'm not missing that jerk, because I'm just going to pop my hands out a little bit wider and boom, go for it. And it's the same thing with, if you're having issues in the snatch, usually your grip isn't going to vary too much, but just change it around. These are things, by the way, Josh, that like I love that you brought this up. It doesn't affect your bottom line at all. You could change your jerk to one of the 2-footed jerks, like a power jerk, or hopefully not a squat jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could change it tomorrow, and as long as you follow your program, you could change it right back.
Yeah.
This is huge. Like, anyone listening, write this down. Okay? Like, seriously, if you're having issues in the clean and you're like, you know what, I'm going to move my grip out a little bit wider, just keep following your program. And if you're like, hey, let's see how it feels to go back, just go back.
Right.
You don't have to be like, and this does kind of seem logical. It's like, you know what, I'm going to switch up my jerk, so I'm going to start the cycle over again and start back from square one. That does sound kind of logical. But again, these are little intricacies, little nuances. The bigger picture, you already know how to snatch, clean, and jerk. You're just messing with little things. I actually finished my squat jerk video up talking about this. So if you guys are listening, again, I'm going to plug the YouTube channel, right? I finished the squat jerk video and I was like, you can always switch these things. You can always go back and forth, whatever, as long as you just follow the status quo, which is just following your program.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like CJ Cummings, perfect example, switched to a squat jerk. He got buried 3 times in a row at Worlds. He can go right back to a split jerk. He set a world record split jerking. I don't care how nasty it looked. Or he could just keep squat jerking. It doesn't matter because the kid is so damn consistent in his training. He has a coach. All of his programs are written out for him. He walks in. What do I do today, coach? I leave.
Yeah.
Hey, CJ, we're going to make a little adjustment in your pull or your catch or your jerk or your snatch. Does that matter? Like, just keep doing your sets as normal. Cool, coach. It's that simple. Like, how hard is that? I feel like that viewpoint is lost. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And I think, like you were saying before, it requires somebody that's extremely dedicated to their programming, because these small, subtle changes, you can note the impact that they're going to have. If you always change things up, you can't say, well, I brought my jerk grip out and it helped, or it didn't because, I stopped following the program and I started doing more push press and more strict press and all these other variables that kind of complicate things. But if you're just running that same logical sequencing of programming, these small changes, like you said, you can tell their impact immediately sometimes.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
So we've kind of covered movement, we covered programming, and then technique. Now, as far as mobility goes, we covered what we would like a lift to look like. We'd like kind of a rigid torso, a little bit of extension in the upper back.
Right.
Someone that lacks those things, where would you direct them? And then what would you tell them not to do because it's just kind of a myth or a misconception?
Well, I would direct them again to the beginning of our conversation. It's volume. Oh, if you can't keep your thoracic spine extended at this weight, what weight can you?
Right.
Because if you can't keep it extended at all through the air squat, like, man, we've got issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to have those things. But so what weight can you? Like, this is going to sound absolutely psycho, but with all of my online clients, we start them with a set of 20 on the back squat. And this was actually touched on a lot by Verkhoshansky and Zatsiorsky in their works. Again, these are 2 PhDs who basically were the OGs of periodization, along with Tudor Bompa and all those guys. But they talked about like the plasticity of like young teenage boys, basically kids going through puberty, and that you need to hit these large sets with them in order to, one, utilize all of the muscle fibers, not just if you're doing incrementally every rep that you do within a set, you're able to call upon more muscle fibers. Also, just as far as neurologically speaking, if you can handle 60 kilos to depth with it for 20 reps, you're sitting pretty well, I think. like generally speaking. If you can squat 60 kilos, and that's not much to ask. I mean, you know how 60 kilos feels. It's light as hell.
Yeah.
But doing it 20 times with that open thoracic spine and that feet flat as hell to the floor. No weight on the heels, no weight on the toes, just perfectly flat the whole way through. And the knees track over the toes. You know, you have your belly through your knees and you're just up and down for 20 reps. Okay, so now we have kind of that standard set. Like, honestly, I start every one of my online clients and anyone who I come in contact with, I'm like, well, what's your 20 rep squat? Like, where's that at? If they start shitting the bed on reps 15 and 16 and 17 and 18, I totally forgot this. I do this with my rugby team. So I'm the strength and conditioning coach for Texas A&M rugby. It's a club team, but I program 20s with them because they all think they're macho, you know, college kids who know everything. And I literally said, this is not an option. You're putting 60 kilos on your back. I don't care what your squat is. We're going to reach depth. We're going to rebreathe every rep, and we're going to go for 20 reps. And then honestly, like I kind of forget what your question was, but like if we could have every beginner kind of, oh yeah, it was like reaching those positions.
Yeah.
Right. That's the best thing, right? Hold your position over time, over dynamic movement. Like, let's simplify it. Take a step back again. And like, what's the issue here? You can't snatch maximum because you're not in the right positions. Well, where are you in the right positions? And let's attack the shit out of that. Like, if you can hold the correct position with an air squat for a set of 10, and then I put a barbell on your back, and you can't hold it for a set of 10. Well, now I know what we're going to do. We're going to do 10 reps every minute on the minute until you want to puke. Because next time I put the barbell on your back and you've done 100 air squats or 150 air squats, the session before or the week before, I'm going to put the barbell on your back and it's going to feel a lot easier. And you're going to at least be able to squeeze out a set of 5 with the correct positions. And essentially, that is periodization in a nutshell. What can you do? And we're going to do it fucking ad nauseum, and we're going to do it to volume so that we can take a harder version of it and do a little bit less. And then we're going to do the same, and we're going to repeat step 1. That is periodization. It's not even that hard of a concept to understand. But, to bring up CrossFit, CrossFitters think that that's a very sexy concept. We don't need these sexy percentages. We don't need all this stuff. We just need like randomization and couplets and triplets.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of people overlook the effect that low weight, high rep training can have on their mobility and their movement, because you can't really adjust like the external or internal rotation of the shoulder with a max snatch. Like, that's really not doable. So I don't know why you would try and train heavy through mobility issues, because it's not going to correct it.
No. Where do you find that your internal rotation or external rotation is good or bad?
Right.
What is that point? And let's hit it, so that the next time we can go 5 kilos heavier or 2 kilos, whatever, and do it again.
Right.
And then, it didn't work for you. Like, today was a bad day. We're just going to take a step back.
Right.
And that's a big thing I do with my clients. Like my online clients, like I'm in their pocket all the time. We're talking all the time. And then we have this weekly chat, weekly Skype, and that's literally our process. And 2 of my guys right now are going through the 5s. And we're going to chat, and we're going to say, like, where did you feel like your internal rotation was bad?
Right.
So for next week's program, what am I going to do for you? You know what I mean? It's like a working thing between the 2 of us. But that's it. Like, seriously, Josh, it's that simple. What works for you? What weight, what load can you work best at? And how much volume can we add to that?
Right.
Then we'll go from there. You know what I mean?
Right. So that's excellent. We covered movement, mobility,
Yep.
programming, technique. So I have a section at the end of every podcast, and I kind of run through a few questions that are a little more abstract, a little more philosophical.
Cool.
So I'll just fire those off. So
Yep.
besides physical improvements, do you think it would be useful for everyone to resistance train, and why?
I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. Absolutely yes, but it doesn't have to be in the form of going to a gym and lifting and even learning how to snatch, clean, jerk, anything like that. Resistance train could be walking up a mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be working on a farm. Uh, I'm out here in Texas. I'm from Chicago originally. My buddy said, "Hey, do you want to haul some hay this weekend?" And he's like, "Dude, you live in Texas now. Like, this is the most Texan thing you will ever do." And we started hauling hay at 5 p.m. and we ended at 3 in the morning. Now, I don't need to resistance train after that. I can tell you that. Each one of those hay bales was like, I think like 50 or 60 pounds, and we did 1,400 between the three of us. And like that's, I guess we're gonna look at resistance training more obscure, but that's it. Like we have physical bodies here, and if you don't use it, like that's just it's a damn fucking shame.
Yeah.
So yes, everyone should resistance train.
Okay, so the second part of that question, and the only reason I frame it like that is because I've asked people before and they got a little upset about the way I worded it, because I said, "Why do you think everyone should?" And they're like, "Well, not everyone should." So it was a whole mess. But like, as far as adopting that habit for yourself, what do you think it's done for you? Maybe has it changed the way you've kind of looked at life, approached life, changed your character? Along those lines.
Oh, this is a simple answer. I work a lot harder. It's that simple. Like when I was I was just really, really good at sports. Like I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, I was really, really freaking good. And my college career in lacrosse didn't go as well as it should have. And I have to live with that regret because I was like, well, I'm good at it, so who cares? Like I don't have to work that hard. If I went back with my knowledge of training, not even knowledge of training, just my mindset towards training, oh my God, I'd be in the gym all day, every day. Like, what an opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's so cliche of me to say, like so cliche, man, like, if only you knew how lucky you were, boy. Like if I could go back and say that to myself.
Right.
But seriously, like that's what I've learned from the barbell, just how to work harder. Like, and maybe that's like an age thing or something, but it's that simple. Yeah, just working harder.
So this question may go along those same lines, but what is the worst mistake you've made as an athlete and then as a coach?
Oh yeah, I mean, again, like as an athlete, thinking that I was doing enough.
Yeah.
And then as a coach, thinking that I was doing enough. Like it's my philosophy for everything. Like when you think you have enough, you don't think you need to improve. Boom, you're already wrong.
Right.
It's that simple. Like if you believe that you're good enough, you've already or you probably haven't lost, but you will lose, and you're gonna lose real big. So those are my two biggest mistakes for sure.
Awesome. And then the next question is what is one thing that people can do each day to better their lives?
Wow. Eat right.
Yeah.
Sleep well. Eat right. Let's just keep it simple. Eat right.
So do you notice that there's a difference between the weightlifting population and the CrossFit population that you interact with in terms of like nutrition and then like recovery habits?
Yeah, I think there's a bigger leap to want to become a weightlifter in the weightlifting population. There's something soccer mom-esque about CrossFit. So the gambit for good nutrition and bad nutrition in CrossFit is pretty wide.
Right.
But I think if you've taken that leap to be like, I only snatch and clean and jerk,
yeah,
you better be on your A game as far as nutrition goes. Or else it's not going to be worthwhile to you.
Right.
I'm not going to say every weightlifter eats perfect or eats right. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm saying it's like the type of person who can dedicate themselves to 12 week of just eating shit on the barbell. Like, cause that's what it is, man. Like after a while, like snatching doubles and missing reps and just feeling like this overarching pain, like you're kind of twisted in a way. And if you're not eating right, like what's the point?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's like, why go in there and suffer each and every day if you're not even fueling yourself to put forward your best performance?
Yeah.
Like you're just self-limiting.
Maybe that's not a correct answer and it can be argued the other way, but I really think that like weightlifters are going to care more about that stuff than the general CrossFit population. I mean, dude, I regularly train at a CrossFit gym, and some of these people are, you know, they have their macros and they're scaling out everything. So I'm not going to generalize that population, but I think that becoming a weightlifter is a very intense thing. So those type of people are usually going to choose better nutrition.
No, that I actually didn't expect that answer, and I think it's phenomenal because I go in the gym and I've been doing heavy snatch grip deadlifts, like 5 sets of 5, multiple times a week, and it's the worst thing that I could have ever done to myself. It's so tough.
Right.
And if I didn't eat right, I don't know how I could live with myself because I wouldn't be able to perform. I wouldn't be able to get as strong as I could. I'd be limiting myself in my performance, and that's like the worst thing you can do as an athlete.
Right. Yeah.
So then the next question, what are some resources, so like books, podcasts, YouTube channels that you would recommend to all listeners?
It's hard to think about recommending something to all listeners because not every listener wants to learn how to program. And so for people who want to learn how to program and just learn basics, periodization training for sports by Tudor Bumpa is really good. Super training by Verkhoshansky is like the Bible. It's so good. But again, I actually hate saying things are like biblical because that's the same thing people said about becoming a supple leopard.
Right.
And we know how I feel about that book. Those are two definites. Like you can get that easily. I think easy reads like 5-3-1, Juggernaut Method. Like those are, you can read those in 2 hours each.
Yeah.
All the way through. And it, you know, whether you believe in 5-3-1 or Juggernaut Method, it's training and knowledge.
Right.
You get a better understanding of the purpose of training. Those are super easy ebooks. You can find those online. Definitely read those. As far as learning how to weightlift and things you can view on YouTube, obviously my channel, again, we're going to plug it. But no, Hook Grip, All Things Gym. Just watch people lift. Just watch it. That's how I got better. I just watched people lift all the time. And any YouTube channel that you are able to watch people lift. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Like 5-3-1, a lot of people wouldn't consider that, but if something's had that much success, it has to have done something correctly, even if it's for the wrong reasons. Like it had to do something right to be that popular.
Yeah, I mean, like the fact that I lumped that into periodization and super training, which are two massive textbooks with just like crazy wealth of knowledge in both of those. I'm basically saying that like you can read 5-3-1 on your commute to work.
Right.
And you'll get an understanding of like periodization in that little microcosm.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, so then that's kind of it for the question. So any plugs that you have, your YouTube channel or where people can follow you on Instagram or more about you?
Yeah, my YouTube channel for sure. I try to literally answer every single comment on my YouTube channel and be in contact with everyone that wants to be in contact with me. Because I'm of the mindset that if anyone wants to talk to me, I am such a privileged individual to have that sort of power or influence on them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who they are, how many people, if anyone cares about what I have to say, I am going to treat them with the utmost amount of respect. And that's honestly my duty on my YouTube channel. Outside of that, follow me, Coach ZT, on Instagram. I try to put some informational stuff. I also put funny stuff on there too recently. And then I also, I'm training people online, and I want to plug this as people who are willing to take training seriously. Like, I am willing to work for you. So that's kind of, those are my plugs right there. If you want to contact me for online training, you can DM me on my Instagram at Coach ZT. So it's just, Coach _ZT. Remember that. And then also my email, ztelander21@gmail. And you can contact me through either of those, and we can talk it out.
Yeah, I want to give you props on the production value of your YouTube videos. I think that's what helps them. They're very viewable, and they have a lot of great information, but they're produced in such a way that makes it very interesting and captivating to watch.
Yeah, I went to college for film and television.
Oh, okay.
So I've been editing videos for quite some time now. And when I graduated college, I stopped editing videos for like 3 years. Someone told me, you should get into YouTube. So I started vlogging because I saw like Casey Neistat videos. And they sucked. My vlogs sucked ass. No one watched. And why would they watch? Who the hell am I?
Right.
It was like, I'm not even that good at CrossFit or weightlifting. Watch me do it.
Right.
No one's going to want to do that. And so all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I don't even care who views it. I'm just going to correct this person's snatch because it's pissing me off. Every one of these CrossFitters or weightlifters, they hit the bar off their hips and then they just fall underneath the bar. How can I dictate that? So what I did was brought out the old editing software, and I pointed out some flaws, and I pointed out some ways that you can fix it yourself. And boom, I gained 1,000 subscribers. And I was like, okay, I'm good at this. I'm going to keep doing this. So that's kind of my process as far as the whole getting better at YouTube thing, or where my YouTube channel kind of came from.
Okay, awesome. And I'll just kind of sign out the podcast, and then we can exchange our goodbyes after. So I want to thank you guys for listening. It was a phenomenal episode with a lot of really interesting and great insight from Zack. So if you like the podcast and you enjoyed listening, subscribe, share, go check out all of Zack's stuff. And I'll make sure to put all of the links in the description box. So thanks again, guys, for listening. Joshua Gibson signing out.